Hi, my name is Phil DeLuna and I'm running to be a Member of Parliament in the riding of Toronto St. Paul's for the next Canadian federal election. Today I want to talk about mental health and give a quick snapshot of what are the ups and downs in my experience so far and how I'm preparing for the election, which is expected to be called any day now. So when I started this journey, one of the main goals I had was to help lower the barriers of entry for other non-traditional candidates, that others too, who had never seen themselves represented in Parliament, could think that they could run. It's important for me personally that I give an accurate and transparent and clear view of what it's like to run for office. And if you've seen any of my other videos and just met me in general, you know that I'm generally an optimistic kind of guy. I prefer to look at the glass half full. But there are difficulties with running for campaigns, and a lot of it has to do with managing stress and mental health. I'm going to talk about a few topics today that have been particularly challenging and stressful for me. One is the current turmoil and infighting that's been published in the media about the Green Party between the federal council and leader Annamie Paul. The second is social media and just being online and what it's like to be a candidate on social media. And the third is kind of just like that nagging guilt that you could always be doing more and how to keep yourself sane, especially if, like me, you're motivated and want to give every single ounce of you that you can to the campaign. To begin, I wanted to address the turmoil that's happening in the Green Party right now that's been published in the Toronto Star and other media outlets about infighting that's happening between the senior leadership in the Green Party, also known as the Federal Council, and Annamie Paul, the leader. I'm not going to comment on the specifics because I don't know all the details, and I'm not going to comment on seeing who's right, who's wrong, and pick a side, because that's not what this is about. I'm going to comment on how this whole ordeal has impacted me as a candidate. I should mention that Annamie Paul is one of the reasons that I decided to run. She and I had a conversation through this Action Canada Fellowship. She was recruiting for new candidates, and at the time I was super excited. I had never talked to the leader of a political party before. I much less had one suggest or urge me to run to be a candidate. It was really exciting, and I could imagine and think about all of these ways in my head that the Green Party was going to make this huge breakthrough. That's why I took a leave of absence in April to start campaigning, raising money, and being a full-time candidate, even though I had no idea when the election was going to be called. There were so many signs that this was going to be the year that the Green Party would break through. The Green Party in Germany, for example, was surging ahead, and climate change was continuing to be and continues to be the biggest issue that we will face coming out of the pandemic. One that will require every politician of every party to work together to find solutions. One that will need the combination of policy and finance and technology working together to address this massive crisis that we face. That was super exciting to me, and I felt that the Green Party, quite frankly, is the least partisan party. It's one that has a reputation for not attacking other people or other parties. It's a party where you vote for a vision rather than against someone or a party, which has made the whole turmoil and infighting between different factions, or I don't even know if they're factions, but just between the leader's office and the federal council and everything, so heartbreaking to me. It's been difficult and stressful. One of the most stressful things. I've been staying up at night refreshing my page whenever all these reports were coming out initially, trying to see what's going to happen next. That takes a lot mentally from you to be engaged and to be focused on the media all the time and hearing about these things that break the news, and you're powerless to do anything about it. The Green Party, and especially as a candidate, I'm so far removed from any of the central corporate machinery. I don't know much of anything. In fact, I'm learning about all of this stuff as it breaks in the media, just like you. There was a time where I was extremely stressed out about this. I couldn't sleep very well. I started questioning whether or not I should continue to run. So I've started actually going door to door, knocking on people's doors, and this is one of the first things that people say to me. They say, "Isn't your party a mess right now?" And that's tough to hear when you're at the door trying to explain to people the party is working through things. Every party goes through these sorts of infighting, and they evolve. Whenever there's change and growth, things happen. I mean, this is all true, but to constantly hear it at the door is a little discouraging, especially when I'm just trying to introduce myself as a person, as a candidate. This is me. I'm Phil. This is why you should elect me to Parliament, what I want to do for you, how I want to serve you. And with all of the distraction in the federal council and the leadership, it really impacts the candidates the most. These are the people like myself who have taken time off work without pay, or who are devoting countless hours to trying to serve their community. And it's hard. It's really hard to hear that at the door. I've been at a door and people yell at me because of Israel and Palestine, both ways, and I'm not going to pretend like I have any insight into those issues. I've never been to the Middle East or to Israel or Palestine before. And I feel the passion and the energy when these people are at the door yelling at me. A lot of them, oftentimes, it's just a cathartic release. They don't know me, right? They just see what's in the newspaper and they make conclusions based on headlines, without perhaps understanding the nuances or the deals behind it. I've come to the realization that you can only focus on what you can control and not worry about what you can't. Because in politics, I've heard this a million times, most people vote for the leader, then they vote for the party, and then they vote for the candidate. And you need to have a strong leadership and party in order to do well in an election. And I'm hopeful that that's going to change around when the election hits, but that's been a really big source of stress for me personally. The second thing I wanted to chat about is social media. I kind of hate social media, which is funny because I know I'm vlogging right now talking to you. But, before running for office, the only social media that I was really on was LinkedIn. And that was a professional thing, trying to build my professional network, my professional brand, that kind of stuff. I wouldn't really post political views. And if they were kind of political, it was really around the science and technology, my expertise. I got Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook all for the campaign. I had a personal Facebook a while back, but I deleted it because I got tired of the vitriol and I wasn't really using it. When it comes to social media, the thing that's been really difficult are people who are just mean for no reason. They don't know me. They don't know anything about me. And I actually try to, as much as possible, to engage, right? Like, if you want to have a conversation, like, here's my contact information, let's chat about it, but there are lots of people, calling me a neoliberal puppet, someone who shouldn't be elected, who, hates Palestine, hates Israel, hates all these other things. And, that kind of stuff, when they're just strangers and you've never met them, you can brush that off your back. But one interaction that really hit hard for me was with the NDP candidate in my riding. We had actually met in person a few days ago at a climate rally to sign a pledge to act more urgently to address climate change. It was hosted by 350.org. And I met her, and we marched together, and we signed a pledge together, and she was very nice. I've been nice on her Twitter and these sorts of things, commenting positively on her posts and liking a few different things. And then the other day I saw that she posted a picture of one of the flyers that I've been handing out. Clearly either her or a supporter got hold of one because I was canvassing in one of their areas, and kind of just attacked my endorsements and attacked me for my endorsements. One of the people that is my endorsement that I'm really, really proud and happy to have is former conservative senator and former principal of Massey College, Hugh Segal, who I think is an incredible a political leader, a leader in general, and mentor, has been a champion for universal basic income and was the architect behind the Ontario Liberal universal basic income pilot that was scrapped by the Ford government when the Conservatives took over. And, it was a tweet about how there's only one progressive voice if you're deciding between NDP and Green. Look at one of this supporters of Phil. He's a conservative, and conservatives are bad, and all these sorts of things. Without recognizing that the term conservatism is a very broad term, and there are many different kinds of conservatism. You can be socially progressive and fiscally conservative, or vice versa. So that was a tough one too for me. She ended up deleting that tweet after, but it was tough because I met this person in person, and I thought we were. I was very nice. We had a good conversation about our work and why we entered politics, and then to see just a couple of days after her attacking my endorsements on Twitter, on social media, and drumming up, some polarizing, contrasts or whatever. It was tough. That takes a toll on your mental health too, right? Like a lot of the strangers and the people on social media you can just ignore, but when it's people that that are trying to sow division and negativity, that's difficult. That's hard. And finally, the last thing that's been hard and difficult in the campaign is this kind of this nagging feeling that I could always be doing more, that I'm always, there's an opportunity cost with doing things like this, like recording this vlog or writing an op-ed. The opportunity cost is every minute that you spend in front of a screen is a minute that you spend away from the voter, away from introducing yourself, away from canvassing. One of the things, I'm a pretty ambitious person, I think, in general, and it's difficult to not compare yourself to your peers, right? And I went to go visit Mike Morris, who's the Green Party candidate in Kitchener-Center. And Mike has been nothing but just an absolute friend and mentor to me. But, him and Anna Keenan, who's in PEI, and both of them are running campaigns to win this time. They got second place last time, and they will win. They can and will win this time. So it's, to compare myself to those campaigns is a little bit unfair, but at the same time, it's natural, right, for you to compare yourself to other people. And Mike, he's out there 5-7 hours a day, 7 days a week, talking to his neighbors, having conversations, hosting fireside chats, and just talking to people. And I look at that dedication. I feel dedicated too, but it's the level of energy and that level of grit. It's really inspiring. And I can't help but feel a little bit guilty. I'm going out every day canvassing too, but it's like a couple of hours, 7 hours maximum on a weekend. And there are some candidates who are out there and they're knocking on every single door in their riding, or trying to, with the election coming up. And whether it's that or something else, I have friends who are going to cottages or who are going to the bar, enjoying the summer, the patio. And I'm out there with them, and I feel guilty that I'm not, knocking on doors. I feel guilty that I'm not doing every single thing that I possibly can all of the time to try to win. That's not healthy, That's really not healthy. And I have to thank my fiance Danielle for being like my social support and my mental rock. I couldn't do this without her. It's hard, and for me, I think the biggest learning that I've like, I don't want you to watch this and think that running for office is all bad, right? I mean, no matter how many doors that you knock on where you get someone who doesn't want to talk, or who shuts the door in your face, or who takes your flyer and throws it out in the recycling bin in front of you, which has happened to me, you get a handful that will have a 10-15 minute conversation with you, and you get to connect to someone, a complete stranger, a Canadian that just your fellow Canadian that you may not have had a chance to ever meet, and just have that conversation and hear about what they think of about this country and our world and our planet and our country. That's super powerful. This is a transformative experience, you know. I think it's worth it. It's worth all the effort and the mental strain. But you know, I started this campaign truly believing that politics doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be hyper partisan. Maybe I'm being naive and it's not realistic, but I like to think of a world where we could do that, you know, where just because you're in different parties doesn't mean you can't be nice to each other and work together. It just means your ideas and priorities for how to make things better in Canada are different, right? The writ hasn't been, at the recording of this video, the writ hasn't been dropped yet. We're expecting it any day now, but the election hasn't started. I don't know what it's going to be like when the election actually starts. I anticipate it's going to be much more busy than it is now, even though I feel like I'm giving 110% all the time. Yeah, this wasn't a very like polished vlog, but it was, you know, I thought it was important. I think it's important to have these conversations out in the open, talk about mental health, and to talk about how these things affect people, especially candidates, right? Candidates who are giving up a lot, like me, to participate in democracy. Honestly, this was probably more for me than it was for you, but thanks for listening anyway, and I'll talk to you later.